Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of Chapman University, Dr. Daniele Struppa.
Good morning. What a wonderful crowd. Wow. I've been on this stage many times by now, and I have to say every time I'm here, I'm in awe at the beauty of this hall. It's really a special, special place to be. And it's wonderful to see so many friends and to listen a little bit what's going on with Chapman, where we're going. Let me begin by acknowledging some of our trustees who are here. I'd like to ask you to hold the applause until I'm finished. Well, I'll begin with Paul Musco, for which this hall is named, and without him we wouldn't be here. We would be in Memorial Hall having our presentation. So I can see you are just like my students. I give them instruction and they disregard, and that's good, that's good. We like that independence of thought in our students. Let's see if I'm going around here. Barbara Haidson, Women of Chapman, President of Women of Chapman, and I see Mark and Jan Hilbert, our newest trustees, and obviously the people responsible for the Hilbert Museum, and Joan Leatherby, Vice Chair of the Board, Scott and Katie Chapman. Scott is the chairman of our Academic Committee of the Board. Doug and Susie Willets, governors. David Hanley, and now as I move in the second, I see Paul and Laura Cook, governor, and Laura, incredible support for our pharmacy program, a very successful pharmacy program. Wiley and Betty Aiken, thank you for being here. Wiley is our new chairman of the board. And I saw Ann and Dale Fowler. I saw them as they walk in, and we'll talk about them a little bit more later in the program, but obviously you know them from our Fowler School of Law. And I think I am done. I don't see any more trustees unless you're hiding in the back. But there is another person I want to recognize. I'm really touched that my mentor and friend is here today to see me do my first State of the University, and that's President Emeritus Jim Doty. Thank you, Jim, for being here. So the State of the University is kind of a celebratory moment. We tell you what we have been doing over the last, I saw a shadow moving there. Because I see here what you see behind me. So. What we have been doing, we tell you a little bit about our challenges, our successes, and our dreams for the future. But before I get there, I want to acknowledge for a moment that this is a difficult time in higher education in the United States. The country is divided, very divided, and it's not just about the division of ideas, but it's about what appears to be almost a collapse of civil discourse. And because universities are microcosms of the society at large, this is percolated down. And if you just watch the news or use Facebook, you see what's happening in many universities around the country. And I have to say that I'm very proud of our own community. I'm proud of our faculty, of our students, for how they've responded to this breakdown. I think by actually giving practical lessons to the rest of the country on how to deal with this. We had protests on campus, yes, and they were peaceful and respectful. We had debates on very difficult issues, and we had people with really strong opinion facing each other and being able to do so with mutual respect. I think that if we abide by the principle that we always describe, which is free speech and the value for diversity of opinion, we can continue to be a model for the entire country. So I want to tell you how proud I am of being in this position and to work with faculty, administrators, and students that embrace this very important notion. And now let me get to the presentation itself. Every year, Eric Cimenti, professor of graphic design, challenges his students with an idea so that they could produce a poster that represents a moment in the history of Chapman University. And this year, the poster is, the theme was, how do we represent the presidential transition in a way that also embodies the values of the university? Because it's important to remember that even though leadership may change, the core values of the university remain the same, and that's where we build our strength. And the winner of this year's competition is Ji Suan Yo, who is an international student. He's a business major. He will graduate in the spring, and it's a graphic design minor. And I think that both him and Eric are in the audience, but I don't know where they are. You want to stand up? Point at them. Okay. I think as an inducement to get you to come here, you will receive a copy of the poster as you leave. And if it looks a little fuzzy, it's on purpose. The student artist will explain to you about glitch art, which is the approach that he took to this poster. But also, it's designed in such a way that it's best seen through 3D glasses. And so I don't know if at the entrance or the exit, you will also be given a pair of 3D glasses to watch the poster. So you put it in your bedroom, and at night before you go to sleep, you put the glasses, and it's really, And on this image of the president, you can go to sleep reassured. One of the things I really like about the poster is this choice of the word emergence. So I don't know exactly why he chose the word, but to me, that's a word that really embodies a lot of what we're talking about when we talk about Chapman. Now, for philosophers, for scientists, emergence refers to this phenomenon where you have an entity which acquires new properties through the interaction of smaller entities who don't share those properties. Let me give you an example. If you take atoms of oxygen and hydrogen and nitrogen, they're not alive, but if you combine them well, you can create living beings. Consciousness. Our cells do not know that they exist. And yet, when you combine enough neurons with enough synapses, then you create our brain, and we are conscious. So those are what we call emerging properties. It seems to me that what we call the Chapman experience is one of these emerging properties. The bodies that compose Chapman are our governing bodies, the trustees and the governors, our senior administrations, our faculty, our students, our staff, our alumni. None of these is per se representing the Chapman experience. Every one of these bodies is made of people. I am not the Chapman experience. My colleagues are not the Chapman experience. But when you put us all together, something new and distinctly different emerges. And we'll come back to this notion of the Chapman experience later, but that's why I think the word emergence is particularly important. The key in any emerging property is the appropriate connection of the smaller entities. I want to begin with the vision of the university. This is the vision that I presented to the board when I took my job, and the board affirmed. And it doesn't say things that we haven't heard before, but I really want to put the attention on the very first line that talks about student-centered university. It is important because every university claims to be there for the students, but few universities actually do it. And I believe that what we really are committed to is this concept. And I see this in our faculty, in our administrators, in our deans, in our trustees. It's always about students first. Let me tell you a few things about where we are with Chapman now. I had dozens of charts, so I'll spare you. And I only brought 2 or 3. Otherwise, we would be here the entire day. The first one tells us about where we are in terms of our rankings. And the beauty of the chart is not just the ranking, but the progression that you see from the 90s until now. And especially, I'm interested in the gap between the blue and the red line. The blue line is our overall rank, and the red line is our reputation. The blue line is something that we can, to some extent, influence centrally with appropriate distribution of resources. But the red line is really what our faculty do, because that's what generates reputation. So it's very nice to see how these 2 lines have finally converged, and now they're essentially identical with each other. Our finances are very solid. There are lots of different indicators. The solidity of Chapman as a financial institution is due to very careful support of our trustees and of our EVP and CEO for Chief Operating Officer Harold Hewitt. We have more than $1 billion in assets, and we have passed the $300 million value in our endowment. These are good numbers, but the endowment is certainly not yet at the level that we need if we want to fulfill our expectation and our hopes for the future. So when we look about the challenges that we see illustrated in these otherwise successful slides, the growth of the endowment is one of the things that we need to keep in mind. We have to realize that we are still very much a tuition-driven institution. About 72% of our budget is covered by tuition, and the rest is a variety of things, of course, donations being one of the most important. But so this is one of the things that I want you to keep in mind as we look at the future of the institution. I mentioned the philanthropic support. Chapman does extremely well. I think we have a history of being one of the most successful universities in terms of support from the community. But what I like about this particular picture is where the money is coming from. And you see the green semicircle on the left, it's parent support. That is very important to me because it tells me something, because parents who contribute are parents whose children obviously have been very satisfied or are satisfied with what we do in the classroom and as a university as a whole. So that's a very important and very special, I think, aspect of our fundraising ability. I'm proud to say that our governing boards are fully invested in this effort. 100% of our trustees contribute, 100% of our governors contribute, but 100% of senior staff, 100% of our deans. So the belief in the strength of the institution really is ubiquitous at the top of the institution. But even more interesting is that faculty and staff have really made a significant commitment in this last year with this project that's called I'm In. And in fact, one of the pictures you see on your left is the incoming president of the Faculty Senate. So staff and faculty are concretely and personally invested in the success of the university. And they're invested because they know that one of the major things that we are trying to do is really to allow access to Chapman to students that would otherwise not be able to join. I'm really grateful to all of you for this. And I'm grateful to our students because their phonathon has been another incredible success that demonstrates again the value of our students. Our students call people, asking them for support. And the key there is for a student to be able to project a real, genuine enthusiasm. I often tell the anecdote of when my alma mater called me for support and how disappointed I was with the kind of interaction between me and the student. And as a result, my philanthropic donations don't go to my previous university, and they go to Chapman. And I think that our students deserve a lot of credit for being able to engage alumni and donors and get them to contribute to the institution. So we talk about students. By the way, these images are taken from the poster, and I thought that this was some sort of a railroad. I couldn't understand what it was. Then when you put the glasses, you discover this actually is the climbing wall, the Struppa climbing wall. So, but it doesn't look like that to me, maybe if you turn your head. I was really scared the other day. It was awful. I was taking my daughter, Elena. I was helping her check in, and I see this line, not my president. I said, come on, I've been president for 6 months. You're already upset with me. So I decided to take a picture and protest and send a note of protest to the Panther. And when I was doing that, the young ladies living there came out, and they reassured me they were not talking about me. That's it. So I'm still good for a while. You heard me say before in other settings that this is the incoming class, well, not incoming, the class that is here now is our strongest and largest class ever. Now, the strength is measured by what we call the academic index. I'll tell you in a second what it means, but it shows that we are actually having academically the strongest incoming class in the history of Chapman. For those of you who like math, Hashem, do you like math? One, okay, one. One person likes math there. Jim Dory, 2. So, okay, but Scott is here, fantastic. So I'm some crowd here. So for those who like math, the academic index is a combination of SAT and GPA. So you take the GPA, you multiply by 12.5, you take the SAT, you multiply by 3, divide by 100, you add them up, and that's the number you get. Isn't that beautiful? I love those formulas. And so that's why students need to take Math 98 so that they can actually figure out their academic index. But the thing that is interesting is that if you look at GPA, it was 3.71 this year, which is in fact the highest GPA, average GPA we ever had for admitted students. And the SAT was a 12.05, which is the second highest, and actually 9 points higher than last year. So students come, students are very good. How do they do when they're here? This is another interesting table that shows both good and bad. I think the numbers are good. when you compare with our industry, but I think we can do significant improvement. The top line, the blue line, is what we call retention, which tells you the percentage of students that stay with us from freshman to sophomore. We can and we will move this number up of a few more units. I suspect we'll be able to move it 3 to 5 percentage points higher. It will be an indicator of a larger project that I will describe at the end, but how students like staying here is a very important metric for our success. The second line is the graduation rate. It stops earlier because when you graduate, you have to go out a certain number of years. And this also is a very good number, but I think we can go up again 3 to 4 points in the next few years. So these are two important indicators that tell us that, yes, students want to come here, but when they're here, they stay. And when they stay, they graduate. Single charts don't tell you the entire story. There is an interesting aspect. Almost 30% of our students now graduate in less than the full 4 years. Now, that's really good news, except for Harold, because it means they're not paying the full tuition the last year. So he's unhappy, but we, the rest of the academia, is very happy. So it means that some of them graduate in 3.5 years, and others graduate in 4 years, but the last semester they only take maybe one class. So I say this because I don't want you to believe that just one picture captures everything, but we have a limited time of what we can do. Applications are wonderful. We are looking at 15,000 applications for this year, which would make this the second best year in the history of Chapman. And the enrollment has been growing moderately. You see that the gray bar is the graduate enrollment. And as you see in future slides, that's mostly driven by our sciences, pharmacy, and health sciences. This slide is more kind of an internal slide, if you want, but I think it's interesting. It tells you how the university has evolved over the last 7, 8 years in terms of composition. And what you see is that the real growth has been, in percentage number, has been for the sciences. So if you look at Kreen, which is our College of Health and Behavioral Sciences, and Schmidt, which is our science and technology, they were only at 14%, and now they're at 23%. So that's a significant growth. And the same is true at the graduate level. In fact, the graduate level is even more visible because we have a new, strong presence of the pharmacy school. What I want to show now in the next few slides, and we're going to move quickly through them, are some samples of successes of our students. Just like for the charts, I could have kept you here an entire day showing you students from all around the university. Our students do incredible things. They're not just doing in the classroom. They are recognized nationally as being at the top of their game. So it's going to be just a very quick survey so that you get a sense of the kind of things we do. The first slide actually is something we are very proud of and reflects the fact that we are one of what they call Top Producer Award for the Fulbright program. Fulbright are the most prestigious fellowship that the students can have, and the Fulbright every year lists what they call the top producers, and for the second year in a row, we are actually here. And Julie Bidmead, who is in charge of the entire program, has told me that next year looks extremely promising as well. Julie, are you here? Oh, here she is. Thank you. Julie, professor of religious studies, and she took this task, and this is one of the tasks that really respond to the notion of student-centered. She spends time with individual students, coaching them, helping them put together their application, mentoring them, and even when they don't succeed, the process is incredibly productive for them. We are very proud of our students, student athletes. As you probably know, our student athletes have actually GPA that is a lot higher than the average student. So this shows that despite the additional commitment, despite the additional requirements at the time, they end up being even more successful. And so I would actually say that despite is not the right word. I think it's because of those extra commitments that focus their attention, that focus their discipline, they're able to accomplish incredible things. I know that you are used to lacrosse results, which we are compared with other local universities. I promised myself I was not going to do that. But I have to say that our men lacrosse team won the championship with a 22-0 record last year, and that's an incredible accomplishment. Our SkyYak Awards includes both the women basketball and the men basketball. Both coaches have won Coach of the Year, and we have both an Athlete of the Year on the men team and a Newcomer of the Year in the women team. And I'm happy to say that yesterday, so the women basketball team made it to the semifinal of kayak, and yesterday they played Cal Lutheran, and they triumphed 66 to 64, 2 points. And the final point was made 3 seconds before the end of the game. It would have been something to see. I don't know if you've ever gone to some of these games, but the women coach is something to really admire. She is a tiger on that stage. And you could see how she never stopped for a second, never sits for a moment. It's always so engaged, and that's how she gets the best from her kids. Yesterday, I wanted to be there, but then I was actually here watching Tommy. And this is the stage that you see behind me. It's a fantastic production of our students. You know, Tommy, the musical written by Peter Townsend, and it's really wonderful show. And I know there are 2 or 3 more nights, so I encourage you to come and see it if you can. It's not just about the student athletes. We have success really, as I said, across the university. This describes what our business students do in our financial center, this competition for financial analysts. Our students have participated the last 4 years. First year didn't go so well, they were number 2, and the next 3 years they were number 1. So I think we can live with that. Fear factor, this is the fear survey. I don't know how many of you are familiar, but this is a project of the Wilkinson College, the Department of Sociology. They look at what are Americans scared of, what makes them terrified. And it's a very interesting project that is getting incredible notoriety across the entire country. And when you look at the map, that tells you the number of times that their results have been published in national press in those different areas. And that's really exciting. They're becoming actually probably our number 1 marketing effort. And it's really a scholarly work. The scholarly work that analyzes what scare American citizens. Our environmental science and policy students travel to Washington. They visit with Loretta Sanchez there, and they visit the White House, because as you will see in a second, the White House, at least the previous one, had inside somebody that is a Chapman alum. Joel Kotkin, you probably read his articles. He published quite frequently on Wall Street Journal, New York Times, OC Register, LA Times. And one of these projects is about the future of Orange County. This is a spectacular place, as you all know. That's why we live here. But the challenges of the future of this place is what are discussed in this new project. And again, what I really appreciate about this is how this project that he leads involves our students as the actual researchers. You heard me talk about this scholar-teacher model all the time. These are the projects in which this model really become alive. Our professional schools are equally strong. First national award for best briefing for students from our Fowler School of Law, and even pharmacy, where we haven't yet graduated, our first PharmD, students are receiving already national awards for the quality of their work. So it is clear that our students are really succeeding at great level. It's not just about the student, but what do they do after that? And so when they become alumni, they are incredibly successful as well. I don't know whether you ever watched this series. It's on Netflix. How many of you watch Stranger Things? All right. So those who haven't watched, they really should. First of all, because it's done by 2 Chapman students, 2 Chapman alumni, so that's a requirement for everybody. Everybody on the board of trustees needs to watch everything that our students do. And it's actually a lot of fun. It's a little bit of a dark, odd, unsettling kind of show. But my wife, Lisa, and I, we binge-watched it last year, and we really liked it. And I'm really excited to say that Matt and Ross are going to be honored, and our Chapman celebrates in the preview night this coming November. So they're going to be here, and yeah, absolutely. Keith Hancock, he runs our summer choir program, which is kindly sponsored every year by Christine and Lon. Oh, where are, oh, here they are. Oh, I promise, thank you. I promised that I was going to cross. I promised I was going to show you a slide about you, and that's a slide that I was hinting at. This is an incredible award. I mean, it's the Grammy Music Educator Award. Again, putting together the value of what you teach and the impact that this has on the students. And we're very grateful for the support that you give every year to run this summer program. It's a summer program for many students is really transformative. He's an alum from 2002, and he couldn't be here today, but we hope to be able to bring it to campus again soon. I know that Kelly Vlahakis Hanks is here. Kelly, will you stand up for a second so we can... The CEO of Earth Friendly Products, which, by the way, you can buy in our gift shop, and really a crusader for products that have kind of zero carbon footprint. She's been honored with the highest environmental honor that the governor of California gives, as well as with national honors. I think you recognize this gentleman that she's taking a picture with. Not only we are proud of her for her success, but we are grateful to her because she really puts in place what we always talk about, which is think Chapman first. And so she hires Chapman students as interns, and then she hires them to work with her, and we are extremely grateful. Thank you, Kelly. And I mentioned before how our students were able to actually go to the White House when they were visiting with Loretta Sanchez, and that's partially due to Joanna Rosham, graduate from our Com Studies program, who was the press secretary, former First Lady. I could go on again. There are lots of these success stories, but I think that what I'm trying to impress on you is that what we do together is changing people's lives, is transforming, giving them an opportunity to really make an impact. How does that happen? Well, that happens through the work, the hard work that our faculty do in the classroom and outside the classroom every day. Our faculty has grown significantly over the last 10 years, and the growth has been fueled by two reasons. One is the growth in student numbers. We wanted to make sure that as we enlarge the student population, we don't shortchange them. And the second is we wanted them to have more access to research, because ultimately that's what gives us the visibility and the national reputation that we are looking for. Student-faculty ratio has in fact gone down, so this is a demonstration that it is possible for a university to grow, like Chapman, and yet to maintain that feeling and that reality of being a student-centered institution. There are now, the ratio is 1795, and this really means that for every one of our students has an opportunity to talk, work, and develop under the guidance of a professor. That's why when we write recommendation letter for our students, they matter, because the writer of the recommendation letter actually knows the student personally. This is a remarkable slide, I think, and it shows you how active our faculty have become in the world of publishing. If you look at 1996, our faculty were publishing 30 between papers and articles a year. And now this number is more than 300. This is a dramatic growth. And one could say, well, maybe it's because you have more faculty, which is part of it. But the next slide shows that that's not the real reason. This is a very interesting number. It tells you publication per faculty. And it went from 0.17, which means every 6 faculty will get a publication, to 0.67, which means you have 2 publications every 3 faculty. Now, I understand that this is only one of the many metrics. There is a lot of work that our faculty do, especially in places like this, in performing arts, that doesn't translate directly into publication. But this is an indicator of the kind of community that we have become. It's a community that really we need to be proud of, because it's a community of people that are engaged actively in their field. And this is important for two reasons. It's important because it makes us visible in the national community and therefore able to attract better students and better faculty. But it's important because these faculty bring to their students in the classroom the freshest, most innovative ideas and problems the students need to confront themselves with. But it's not just what you do in the classroom. I want to ask a question. How many universities do you think have a professor of history who is in the top 100 most influential person in the community? And that's, of course, is the case for Marilyn Harran. Marilyn has been a tremendous power for our Holocaust Center, and she's now working actively on the next competition, the Holocaust Art and Writing Project, which is going to be March 10. and she was telling me that there are already 249 institutions participating in that competition. Marilyn is the example of how one person, sufficiently committed, can really make things of great value happen. Yeah, I think she deserves. Oh, here she is. Marilyn is tired of me saying that, but I always use as an example when people say, well, we would need this, we would need that. She thought that this was an important project. She made it happen. And now, of course, yes, we are supportive, but it's because of the incredible work she's done. Laura Glynn from our psychology department, chair of the psychology department. Laura here? No, she's probably hard at work. She's the chair, but I know that she's moving soon in the vice president office, vice president for research. She was elected to the Academy of Behavioral Medicine Research. And you see her here at our new facility, which is the former Cypress School in the Barrio, which we have restored to beautiful conditions. In fact, we had a beautiful open house recently, another example of really positive collaboration between us and the community. I talked a lot about publications, and I mentioned that in some cases you don't have publications that describe what you do, but form of creative arts. And so the slides on the right side of the slide is the work of Leah Halloran. Leah, are you here today? Maybe no. So Leah is a professor of art and an artist whose work is now permanently in display at Caltech in their astronomy building. And she's been guided in this particular production she's been inspired by famous women scientists, astronomers, mathematicians. And so I thought you would say, well, the picture on the left doesn't look like the same style. In fact, it's not the same painter. So the one on the right is Leah, and the one on the left is Raphael. So that picture comes from the painting that I show you every time I'm on this stage, which is the School of Athens. You heard me talk about that at my inauguration. And the woman represented there is actually the only woman that appears in that painting, and then is Hypatia of Alexandria, the first woman mathematician. And this is actually the inspiration for some of the work of Leah. And I thought that she wouldn't mind being coupled with Raphael in her, it's not a bad comparison to be in the same slide. Faculty awards. Our faculty receive awards on all kinds. In fact, Jeff Tollakson was mentioned to me an award that one of his papers just received a few minutes ago. And but here we have, again, a sample of some of our work, including the exceptional award that Bill and Sue Croyer received for their work in the digital media. And that is actually the first time that a couple, husband and wife, received that award. I don't know if Bill and Sue are here. Maybe not. No, but you know that Bill is really the architect of our digital art program. And here, these are some less pleasant news. The School of Pharmacy had a president 2 years ago, and that was L.B. Brown, the 160th president. And the 162nd president is also from the School of Pharmacy, and Nancy Alvarez. And I was very disappointed that the one in the middle is not. I said, you get only 2 presidents out of 3. And so they told me that they have to do it, otherwise the other pharmacy school would be really upset about them taking all the event. This is really remarkable. We actually have 3 former presidents. I mean, Nancy is the president-elect, LB is former president, and Ron Jordan, the dean, was also the president, I think, 143rd president of the Pharmacy Association. One new person in senior staff this year is Tom Pihota. Tom is sitting there. Thank you for coming. And he's our new vice president for research that is going to be responsible really to move our research operation to the next stage. He has already dealt with some fairly complex issues, in particular the restructuring of our research office. But as you see here, Chapman is also, from the point of view of research, growing really nicely. Look at the number in fiscal 06 was $2 million, and now is $6.5 million. Let me explain what these numbers are. This is what we call research expenditures that measure how much external grants are we spending in a given year. So it's a reflection really of what happened in the last couple of years. So you receive a grant, let's say you get a $3 million grant, but maybe you have 5 years to spend it, so you spend it in bits and pieces. So the cumulative spends, that's what tells you the amount of sponsored research that you have for that year. Tom and I spoke, and this is a curve that will continue to grow, and certainly will grow significantly because of our investment in the sciences. When we grow research, I'm not going to spend time describing this slide, but you have to think about infrastructure, you have to think about the support you provide, and the strategic development. And when we talk about the support, I should probably point out Glenn Pfeiffer, our new provost. Where is Glenn? Oh, Glenn, oh, up there. Oh, he's hiding. He's hiding up there. And I want to give him a shout out because he is putting in place a new project by which faculty who pass the second-year critical review and the fourth-year critical review are getting some course release to allow them to perfect their work in the research. So thank you for buying in and be part of this push for the university. Facilities, that's a fundamental component of what we do. All of these things that we mentioned don't happen in a vacuum. Lots of stuff has happened over the last several months, and lots of stuff are going to happen in the next few months. 2 grand openings took place this year, one February 26th, essentially just a year ago, and that's a beautiful Hilbert Museum of California representative art. Thank you, Mark and Jan, for your incredible energy. This really is a labor of love. It's not just the financial support, it's not just the painting, but Mark and Jan are there welcoming students, welcoming visitors every day, giving tours. This is another example of what I consider really our best sort of contribution to the community. It's a world-class museum, and people can come and for free and have mentors like Mark showing them around and explaining the origin and the meaning of this museum. So thank you. This is a very exciting project. And on the right-hand side of the slide, you see another incredible moment in the history of Chapman University. This was the opening night. It's March 19. I don't know why they wrote 18. March 19 of 2016. I know it's March 19 because that's San Giuseppe, St. Joseph, and my dad's name was Joseph, so that was a sacred day at our home. So that is Placido Domingo, who came here. You may remember, those of you who were lucky enough to be here, he opened this hall singing first the Brindisi from Traviata, and then other pieces later on, and concluding actually with Granada. And here is a scene in which he hugs the curtain, which is named after him. And it was really a difficult to beat moment in our history. For those of you who were not able to see Maestro Domingo when he came last March, there is a second opportunity now, and it's going to be March 28 at 2:30. We're going to be again on this stage, and we have the great honor of giving him, awarding him an honorary doctorate in arts. So put it on the... Take out your iPhone and go to March 28, 2:30 p.m., and put Placido Domingo. And it's going to be a real pleasure to have him again here and to honor us with his presence. The Dodge College continues growth. I have 3 pictures here that really show the evolution. You know, the first one is dear to me, the one on the top left, because that was my first year at Chapman, and I remember that opening, and that's when my wife and I realized we were not in Kansas anymore, or in Virginia for that matter. Champagne, fireworks, red carpet, movie stars. We said, well, maybe we should stay around here. It's kind of an interesting place. And that was the opening of the Marion Knott Studios. A few years later, we opened the DMAC, Digital Media Art Center, which is, in my opinion, the first of what I like to call the Google buildings. It's designed not with the old model of bunch of offices and bunch of classrooms, but really designed with open spaces and collaborative spaces. I call it Google buildings. I should probably call it wiki buildings because this collaborative spirit is really the spirit you see in Wikipedia, where people contribute different ways and you have a new creation. And finally, just a few weeks ago, Bob and I were fortunate to inaugurate and open the Daunt Family Foundation Documentary Center. This also, it's interesting because when you look at the 3 buildings, it's not just that we keep building stuff, but it also gives you an idea of the intellectual path that the school is taking by adding digital art and now by adding documentary as some of the core activities of what they are focusing on. Monday is going to be another historical moment, I think, for Chapman University with the opening of the Cross-Cultural Center, for which I'm very much indebted to both Glenn Pfeiffer and Joe Slovensky and Jerry Price. It's going to be in Argyros Forum. I hope you'll be able to attend the opening. This is a project that students have wanted for many years, and they really will allow them a space where they can come together and learn from each other, from the different cultures that they bring to the table, that they bring to this wonderful university. It's going to be it's a wonderful space, first of all, but it's going to be a wonderful space for the students to work and come congregate together. As you know, for the last year or so, year and a half, we haven't had tennis courts on campus. We had to actually send our students off-site, which is not what we want, but finally this summer, we should be finishing with our new project. This is just across the Dodge College. Beautiful new tennis court, the Lassinger Tennis Center. I'm very grateful to the Lassinger family for supporting this. It's going to be really a state-of-the-art, top-quality tennis center, which will allow our students to, again, to excel in this. Why don't we have tennis courts? Well, we used to have them behind. You say, well, what happened to the tennis courts? Well, we have this other building there right now. So the tennis courts were behind the football field, and now we have this incredible building. This is going to be the largest and the most sophisticated building that we ever built on campus. It's going to be another wiki building. It's going to be, for our science, it's about 140,000 square feet, built in kind of 2 blocks. One is 100,000 square feet. It's going to be for the Schmidt College of Science and Technology, and in a moment I will tell you what the other 40,000 square feet are going to be for. I think it's a splendid project. Will really transform the way in which students think of science at Chapman University. We saw from the previous slides how much that slice is growing. This will really catapult us in a totally different world. There are always questions about where we put in the student. The city has expressed concerns about the fact that we should have more of our students on our residence hall. So we have a project that has not been approved yet. That's why I want everybody to notice that it says concept. This would be in Villa Park Orchard, so it would be diagonally from Dodge. It would house 402 beds. And again, this particular plan is in discussion with the city. I think we are optimistic that it will, in one form or another, will become reality. But even more exciting, we recently bought a piece of land. Let's see if I can orient you as you look at this picture. The big highway in the center is Route 5, and the other fairly large highway that you see on the right-hand side is Chapman Avenue. As you go to Chapman, from where we are, from the circle, and you go west, at the intersection you find something that we call Panther Village. It was a former hotel that we restructured, and we have residence halls there. Well, behind that space is a vacant lot that belonged to the city of Orange, and we work with the city and we acquired this piece of land. That was a very important step that took place maybe 2 months ago. Really important. It's a beautiful piece of land. The question is, what do we do with that? Well, we want to build residence halls there. And we had lots of conversation with the real estate committee, with trustees, obviously Harold and I, and Chris Olsen. We were kind of not knowing exactly what shape the project should take. So I called a friend, Sandy Quinn. He's the president of OTPA, which is Old Town Preservation Association, and they've been very vocally advocating for us to be able to acquire that space, so we are grateful to that. And I said, listen, Sandy, why don't you go, I'll be happy to pay, if you want to go and take a visit to UCI and UCLA, even San Diego. Just take a little, field trip, go to San Diego, take a look at what kind of facilities they have. So he did that, and I have to say that I think he kind of took advantage of me and sent me back this report from his travel.
I'm Sandy Quinn, and I'm president of the Old Town Preservation Association. I'm here in Rome, Italy, because the new president of Chapman University is from Italy, and as you know, he's very interested in more housing for students attending Chapman University. So I've come to Rome to visit the Italian architectural firm, Drom and Billum, that he is commissioned to do the new housing. I'm here with the architects, and behind me is the architect's model of their new housing for Chapman University. Exciting, don't you think? And imagine that they've done this model in the real size. This is going to be the new housing at the 2.5 acres that are next to Panther Village. If the city will ever give it to Chapman, then this is what they're going to build. Imagine the excitement driving on the freeway and being able to see this. Now, as you know, most of Chapman students have a little, how do you say it in Italian, dinero or whatever it is, and so they can afford the best. So in order to attract more Newport admissions, they're building this very elaborate house. This will hold an estimated 2,000 students. There's huge showers. The suites upstairs have their own bowling alleys. Some have tennis courts. There are some with swimming pools. It's nothing but the best for Chapman students. So, as you know, on campus, there are buses all over campus for famous people, and they kind of figure that they've done all the famous people that they want to do. So now they're going to honor horses. And if you can see the bust of the horses up here, and those of you who go to the racetrack and follow thoroughbred racing will recognize Seabiscuit as the featured horse up here. So it's all exciting, and here I am in Rome.
Sandy, why don't you stand? First of all, Bezad, where is Bezad? I actually am not paying for that trip. I need him to know, because otherwise I'm gonna get in touch. He went on his own dime. And actually I didn't know about this video until maybe a week ago. And then Chris also sent it to me and said, we absolutely need to show it, because that shows how foresight we are thinking about it. I like the idea of the horses a lot. It reminds me of Caligula, the famous Roman emperor, who was so disgusted with the Senate, not the faculty Senate, the Roman Senate, that he decided to elect to senator one of his horses. So there is a method to this. Thank you, Sandy, very much. New and exciting. Well, there are lots of new and exciting things. We announced a couple of months ago, the opening of the Oscar Schindler Archive, again, through the incredible efforts of Marilyn Harran. What makes us proud that this is the largest archive on Oscar Schindler in the world. And this, once again, puts Chapman absolutely at the center for everybody who is interested in Holocaust history, but more at large in the history of the 20th century. Thank you, Marilyn, for this incredible success. We are also happy to have a dedication coming up on March 3rd for the ANCA Archives. Last April, we actually had the first part of the collection donated to the library. And now we are adding a music multimedia room, and we are adding some spaces actually even here in the Musco Center, where some of the exhibits will be housed. This is an incredible collection that Daniele Temianka and his wife Zinab Danab are donating. This is a collection, of course, of Daniel's fathers, one of the foremost musicians of last century. It's a very exciting thing. These collections add the texture to the university that you can't have without being able to actually look at the physical objects. And they are incredibly important for our students. We are opening a new brain institute. I'll show you soon where it's going. This is Amir Raz, who's going to be the director. He's hypnotizing a prospective donor of Chapman University. And this will be in the Rinker campus. Amir is really one of the most renowned professor of psychology from McGill in Canada, and he's going to bring a team just like we've done in other areas, and will really be a tremendous influence on our programs. We are also extremely excited to announce the accreditation for our PA program, Physician Assistant Program. This was one of the core elements, together with pharmacy, of our 5-year strategic plan. When we put together the plan, of which we are now at the end of year 4, pharmacy and PA were really kind of the two big columns, and so we are thrilled that we have this program. It started in January, and one of the things that Dean Janine Hill sent me that really stuck in my mind is that our admission rate has been 8%. So we have admitted 8% of the applicants. So this shows the tremendous potential. First of all, it shows the quality of the student that we have, but also the potential for future growth. We are building this science building, and we need all the help we can. And the Fletcher Jones Foundation stepped up and increased support to now $2 million for naming the physics teaching laboratory suite. You see the picture there, what I mean when I talk about the wiki sort of building. So lots of open space, lots of open windows where people can collaborate. We announced a month or so ago the establishment of the new Smith Institute, you say, for political economy and philosophy. It's amazing, no matter how many times you look at the slides, there is always something that you should have changed. So this is the Smith Institute. The story here is somewhat amusing because the donors wanted to name this the Vernon Smith Institute. They're big supporters of Vernon Smith's work. And Vernon Smith, of course, is a major fan of Adam Smith, so he wanted to call the institute the Adam Smith Institute. And we are lucky that these two guys have the same last name. So we just call it the Smith Institute, and that's it. And really, it's designed to bridge, I guess the best way to describe is what Vernon always say. Adam Smith wrote two books. One is The Wealth of Nations, and the other is The Theory of Moral Sentiments. And so one is about building wealth for a country, and the other is how to be good human beings. And the question that you want to address is, why do these two things come together? How can you do that? And that's really one of the purposes for this institute. This is going to be, again, a tremendous impact. It's going to add significant faculty, top quality faculty to our institution. I mentioned before I welcome Anne and Dale Fowler. Dale is on our board of trustees and the namesake for our School of Law. And I said I was going to say a few words about them later on during the day. So Anne and Dale have been incredibly generous with Chapman. They supported us in a wide variety of endeavors. The School of Law, obviously, carry their name, but also they support a really interesting program. It's the Eastern Outreach Program. It's a program by which our students from COPA travel to the eastern part of the United States, New York, Boston, Massachusetts, there, and perform, and they are part of a kind of recruiting team. It's a fantastic program, and my wife and I actually were lucky that we attended one of those programs a few years ago, and we were in Massachusetts with them. Dale and Anne have supported the construction of the new Science Center, and they have significantly supported this particular Musco Center. As you may know, this is a Steinway-only hall. In other words, all the pianos here are Steinway pianos, and the Fowler have been generous and acquiring all the pianos that we need for our performances. So that's one of those really significant, it's a way to really elevate the quality of what you offer. And then maybe a month or so ago, they called us and they told us that they had decided to make one more step to support Chapman University, and they wanted to express their support for what this university is doing and for the way things are developing here. And so you may remember their original gift for the law school was $55 million, and they decided to add another $45 million to that donation and to bring this to $100 million. It's obvious that with friends like this, the university can't do anything wrong. It's really incredible, this level of commitment. And we talked about one of the projects that, as many of you know, it's very dear to my mind, and a project that I wanted to start a while ago, and that I hope is going to find its space in the new strategic plan, and that's the School of Engineering. You remember I mentioned how we are talking about 140,000 square feet for the Science Center, and now there is a portion that I would like to allocate to a School of Engineering. We are still in the feasibility part of this plan, obviously, and we'll work on it over the next several months and bring it finally for approval to the board in the fall. But when that will happen, in recognition of this donation, the engineering school will carry the Fowler names. So thank you so much. This is the last what's new and exciting slide, because I couldn't have anything more exciting to tell you. So now I want to talk very briefly about the future. Where are we going to go for the next 5 years? One of the things that really makes me proud about Chapman University, and I say this to everybody here and when I go around the country, is our ability to work on strategic plans that are actually effective and that we actually listen to and are very concrete. And now we are in year 4 of our 5-year plan. So this is kind of the history of what we have done over the years. Obviously, you do several things over a 5-year period, but the key of these plans is the focus that each one of them have. From the first one that had to do with the quality of incoming students, it was a dramatic change in the university, a real historical decision. To the second plan, in which we established some of the schools who are now the core or a very important component of our school, the Fowler School of Law and the Dodge College. The enhancement of physical facilities. So you have now great students, you have new interesting programs for them, and now you need to have the facilities. A path to national stature. This was the first plan that was put in place when I was here, and really the idea was to increase the quality at the international level of the university. And during this period is when we built ESI, the Economic Science Institute, and IQS, the Institute for Quantum Studies. The plan we are in now is what we call the Health Sciences Plan. The emphasis has been, again, other things happen, but the emphasis has been really on building our Rinker campus of health sciences in Irvine. I'll show a picture in a few minutes. And that's why I was mentioning before both the School of Pharmacy and the Physician Assistant Program in the Crean College. And so now, this summer, we will begin with the trustees a strategic process to begin the next plan. So the way this is going to work is that in June, we're going to have a retreat. We're going to spend 2 days all together, senior staff, deans, trustees, governors, and we look at some of the big picture items. Those conversations are going to provide me and my senior staff with a kind of advice and indication of what we can or should be doing. And then over the summer, all of us as senior staff will work with the target of bringing the proposal to the board for the December meeting. So here you see some of the things that I have in mind. The number one, I mentioned this, and it's been in my target area for many years, is the School of Engineering. And I'll say a few words in a second. The second has to do with the Rinker campus, because we have a tremendous opportunities there, and we need to evaluate what to do. The third has to do with the way in which our demographics, the student demographics is changing, and I will say a few words about that as well. And finally, the Chapman experience. Just a couple of words on each one of these. Why engineering? Well, I think this really is the natural evolution of our success in the sciences. It provides a tremendous connection with the industry around us. It allows us to attract students of very high quality. It will allow us to increase our research profile, and it's actually filling a very important workforce need for California. The number of students in California that apply to engineering programs far exceeds the number of available spots. And so while we are still in the initial thinking here, we are talking about possibly computer science, computer engineering, software engineering, and electrical engineering as our first entrance in this field. The opportunity for partnership are huge with the law school, intellectual property, with the business, but also with Dodge. So we believe that this is not just another school. It's really going to be a very, very important moment in the definition of what Chapman is. About 8 or 9 years ago, I led a town hall meeting in which I told the faculty that I thought we should move into engineering. And the faculty pointed out correctly that we didn't have yet enough strength in the sciences. So the project was postponed. Now we have, as you see from the picture below, incredible strength in the science, a fantastic new building. It's time for us to build engineering. The Rinker campus, this is a map of the campus. If you're driving 5 south and you see the Spectrum Center, you take the exit, Alton, roll around Route 5, and then pretty soon you get to Geronimo and Hughes, which are the 2 roads that encompass our campus, our Rinker campus. The interesting aspect here is that we are only using, at this point, only building 5 and 6 are occupied by Crean and by the School of Pharmacy. And when you look at building 1, you see as a little tail coming down, that's where the Brain Institute is going to be. So the question in front of us is, what next? How do we employ that space? There are lots of ideas. Ideas never lucky here. The question is going to be what are going to be the priorities and how we're going to make that happen. But that's going to be another fundamental part of our summer discussion. This is an ideal situation for a university. If you talk to any president anywhere, they would tell you that they have a lot of programs they want to build. They just don't have any space. And this is exactly the opposite. We have the space, and so we can take our time to sit down and look at what strategically makes most sense. I talked about the changing demographics of our student body. The number of students going to college is flattening out nationally. The number of first-generation students is growing, and that's something that we are very committed. I think this really fits with the ethos of Chapman University, our ethos of inclusiveness and our desire of really fulfilling the promise that higher education has for our students. We are very proud of our first-generation campaign. Here you see this button that we give, but the first-generation process here begins during the summer. We have a bridge program. We bring students here, we bring their families here, and we work with them, and then we follow them throughout the years. I think we have, in fact, we are lucky to have 24 students, prospective students, which I hope have fallen in love with Chapman over the last 45 minutes, and will come with us. And I'd like to ask Frank Kay and the students, if you don't mind standing up, Frank, and all the students are. Frank, thank you. It takes a lot of commitment, it takes a lot of passion. I want you as prospective students of Chapman to know that the community here is welcoming, and we welcome you, and we'll work with you, and Frank is our best example if you want, and we'd like you to choose Chapman for your future. We are a community, I think, that can offer unlimited possibilities. So thank you for being here with us today. Thank you, Frank, for bringing them. And now, let me get to this last couple of slides. This Chapman experience. It's something that I've been mentioning quite a few times, and the idea is really to look in a comprehensive way at what Chapman does. Why is Chapman special? What makes Chapman a very different university? Those are questions that we need to really identify and clarify, and that's why we have a task force that has been working on this, and that is bringing forward some specific proposals that the entire community will be involved with over the next few months. This is a task force in which we have administrators, we have faculty, we have students, we have alumni, and I'm grateful to all of you who participated in that. The idea is to define really what is so special. If you go to the first slide, when I talk about the emergence, so these emergent properties, what gives Chapman this particular ethos and qualities, and how we preserve that? How do we make sure that every part of the machine works in a way that is supportive of these particular goals? How do we make sure that we have an environment that removes the pain points for a student, whether it's in admission or, or in housing or in financial aid? I always say, I said this before this morning, students rarely complain for a bad grade. They are not happy, but they very rarely hold us responsible for their bad grade. They're mature enough to know that maybe they should have studied more. But what they will complain is when other aspects of the entire experience don't work. And what we're trying to do here is to define really what are we and what are we going to do this. And this experience has to really begin from the moment in which a student first hears about Chapman to the moment in which he graduates and maybe start getting his first job. You see here, I like this image on the right where we talk about a place that people fight to get into. Well, I think we are there. We have 15,000 applications for, 1,400 spots, so that's clearly is a good number. They don't want to leave. That number is measured, so that the first line, the place that people fight to get in, is measured by our application numbers. Don't want to leave is measured by our retention rate. Love to support is measured by how our alumni continue their engagement with us. And this support, in some cases, is financial, but in other cases is hiring Chapman students, thinking about Chapman, and eventually, the never forget means sending us their next generation. I think we have an incredible story here. I think the research we have done shows that we don't always tell it the way we should. And so I'm really looking forward to working with you all, faculty, staff, administration, to make sure that we define a new brand and university that we really carry this story forward. I'm honored to be the president here. I consider myself the luckiest person in the hall for the opportunity you've given me, and I look forward to working with you again. Thank you.